Hey y'all, and welcome back to Due South Sips and Travel Tips. I'm Nina V. King DuPont, and today we're going to talk all about tipping at all-inclusive resorts. But first of all, you may be new here, but my husband and I absolutely adore traveling to all-inclusive resorts, and I love giving pro tips along the way. So that's what we do here at Due South Sips and Travel Tips. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. It's the only way we're gonna grow. So let's get right into it. What does it mean on a website when it says all-inclusive luxury? Is everything actually included? I get this question all the time around tipping. Yes, for the most part, everything's all included. At some resorts, the higher end liquor is not actually included, but at other resorts that are a bit more pricey, everything is actually included except for spa services. But you will see some room types, sometimes it includes spa services. However, this does not mean that tips are included. And those tips they're expected, okay? You are gonna get a much higher level of service if you tip better. You just are. And I know this is very controversial in a lot of the Facebook groups. There is a different standard of tipping in the United States than there is in Canada or in Europe. We tip for a lot of things here in the States, whereas in England, it's not done. It's just not customary. Some European folks or some Canadian folks might get a little angry when they see a lot of Americans tipping, but that's just become the cultural norm in most all-inclusive resorts. So you do need to tip. I'll let you know about some resorts that you don't need to tip at in a little bit. What denominations of money should I bring? What type of currency should I bring? So I have found that cash is king, obviously, and the US dollar is king. I know in the Huatuco area, it's also really controversial on a lot of the resort groups that they do prefer the peso. I did tip in American dollars there, and it was extremely appreciated, but I know that a lot of people swear by tipping with pesos. So in Mexico, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, I always tip with ones. Costa Rica, I always tip with ones. So I bring a lot of $5 bills, a few $10 bills, and then a multitude of $1 bills. So that's exactly what I bring when Greg and I go to all-inclusive resorts. So how much should you bring? I think this really is a personal decision. I think you should tip as much as you can afford. What I try to do is I do create envelopes for each day I'm there. So like, for example, I'm going to the Platinum Yucatan Princess in June. So I will have a envelope pre-prepared for Friday when I arrive, Saturday, Sunday, and for Monday when I leave. I think that's or Tuesday when I leave. I'm there 4 nights only. So I'm gonna have an envelope for each day. I am going to have a transfer envelope for my transfers that's separate from that, because I want to tip my transfer a little bit more, and I just want to organize it that way. So an envelope for my transfers and an envelope for each and every day. I tip around $50 to $60 a day on the resort only. I'm not talking about a day I go on an excursion or I'm going to Playa del Carmen. I'm talking about when I'm on the resort and I'm just enjoying, I'm gonna tip around $50 to $60 a day. That's what I feel comfortable with budgeting. So I will have a mix. Usually I'll have more ones than anything in that envelope. And then I will have maybe 2 5s in that envelope. So sometimes I don't use the entire $50 or $60. More often than not, I don't, but that's what I feel comfortable bringing. If you can only do $20 a day, please do it. Y'all, these people work so hard and they make not much money, okay? It's not like here in the States. I mean, sometimes some of them are making $15 a month or something like that. I mean, I don't know exactly what different resorts pay, but I hear things like this. A lot of these people rely on tips. highly recommend that you tip not only to get that better service, but also to put money back into their local economy because Lord knows they need it. How much should I tip bartenders? So we typically go with the rule that we tip $1 per drink. That's just what Greg and I do. Sometimes I may tip $1 for 2 drinks, especially if he just gets like a beer and I get a champagne. It just kind of ebbs and flows. Some people, if they know they're going to be seated at that bar all day, they might front load it and just put down a 10. Some people also will give like $20 for maybe 2 or 3 days. I don't think that's very smart because you're not always going to have the same bartender every day, even if you go to a certain bar. I mean, you may, but you may not. You don't know when that person has the day off. So I personally like to tip per drink. That's what I do. How much should I tip my transfer service? I typically would tip my transfer service around $10 a person, especially depending on how far the ride is. Like, for example, if they're taking me 90 minutes, I'm going to tip a little bit more. If they're taking me 20 minutes, I'm going to tip a little bit less. But these folks, again, rely on tips, so definitely tip your transfer service. How much should I tip my bellhop? I usually give them like $3 or $4. You know, again, that ebbs and flows. Sometimes I do 2, but I definitely always tip the bellhop, especially if they're taking me to show me the room. A lot of times at the higher end resorts, your bellhop will take you and do like a room tour. It's really nice. So I always tip them a little bit more. They do that for me. How much should I tip wait staff? So if we're at the buffet for breakfast, I usually leave like $2 or $3 just because they're not doing a whole lot. For lunch, if it's an a la carte, or even if it's like the food trucks at Valentina Imperial Riviera Maya, I'm gonna tip maybe $4 or $5. And then for dinners, I try to do a minimum of $10 for each a la carte dinner for that wait staff. How much should I tip housekeeping? So typically at your higher end resort, you're gonna have somebody that comes in and cleans your room in the morning, and then you're gonna have turn down service in the evening. Turn down service is where the housekeepers come in and they turn your sheets down, they'll give you new towels, they will just kind of freshen up your room. I really love it. They'll pull the shades. I personally, I adore turn down service. I know some people just don't really care for it, but so in the morning, what I usually do is if I want more conditioner or I want more shampoo or I want more towels, I will write on a piece of paper in Spanish. Sometimes I'll write it in English, but typically my Spanish is pretty good, so I'll write it in Spanish, and I will leave $5 or so on that note for the housekeeper so that they know that it's for them. I've heard of people leaving different treats and candy and things like that. I've talked about Brittany Bishop from Memories and Mojitos before. She does like this candy situation with ones like in these plastic baggies. That's really nice. I personally don't have the space to pack all that, so I'm just going to give them money. I have another resort friend. She will give them Bath and Body Works products. So there are all different kinds of ways you can tip, especially your housekeepers. So in the evening, when we leave for dinner, I will put out like $2 or $3 for turn down service. How much should I tip minibar restockers? So a lot of people don't realize this, but it goes a long way if you put $3 in your minibar with a note of what you want, okay? I do that at every resort that I go to, and we always get tons of what we want. For example, I'm a big water drinker. I know y'all think I only drink alcohol, but I do drink a lot of water. So I will leave a note in the fridge saying that we want más cerveza y agua, okay? Because my husband is all about drinking all the beers all the time. So we will put that note in there with the cash. And sometimes I'll come back to the room and I'll have like 10 waters, or I'll have like 15 beers, okay? So that goes a long way for these folks. So definitely make sure that you take care of your minibar people. How much should I tip my butler or concierge? So some places you might have a butler or concierge if you pay into the higher tier levels of service. Some places just will have a concierge. Like for example, the property I'm going to in June is a budget property, but there is a concierge there that will take care of whatever you need. And so a lot of times if they book a reservation that I want, or they get me into a restaurant, or they do something nice for me that I've asked for, I will tip them. I know at Valentine, Imperial Riviera Maya, you're assigned a certain concierge. Oscar's my favorite, y'all, just saying. You want to tip that concierge. We always did. We usually tipped him around $5 or $10 a day-ish. He did something really nice for Greg last July. We did do the privy package, and he hooked Greg up with a bottle of mezcal. So it's just, they really appreciate those tips. If you do a sandals, or you do Secrets Cap Cana, and you pay into that preferred club, you're going to get a butler. You're going to get a butler at Secrets Wild Orchid. There are certain properties you're going to get that butler. That butler isn't going to follow you around, but they are going to come find you on property and check in on you and see if there's anything that you need for your stay. I like it. It's a nice touch. Greg and I are not really high maintenance, except for wanting the waters and the beers in our room. We don't really utilize the butler that much. If we do utilize them quite a bit, we're going to tip them more at the end of our stay. So we may tip them $25 if they've done a ton of stuff for us. I know when I was in Breathless last summer, the butler really didn't do much for me. Nothing really. So I mean, I think I only gave him $5 because he literally didn't do anything for me. So it depends. How much should I tip a cab driver? So you may have a cab driver take you into the town if you stay in Costa Rica. I know I've done that. Or you may have a transfer service take you to Playa del Carmen, or a cab service if you're in Mexico, without it being an excursion piece. So I would definitely tip that cab driver $5 or more. Typically $5 is good. They don't expect too much, but I would definitely tip, depending on how far you've gone, I would definitely tip at least $5. How much should I tip someone that has taken me on an excursion? Okay, so there are two different types of excursions you can do. You can do a group excursion, or you can do a private excursion. And if you've watched my previous video, my FAQ video, you know that Greg and I only do private excursions. I don't want to be with a bunch of people. I don't want to be on a bus with just the masses. It's just, I'm a snob. It's just not my thing. So we always get a private tour guide, and they usually have a driver with them. So we will usually tip that driver $10, $15 at the end of our excursion, and then we'll tip our tour guide about $20, depending on how long it was or where they've taken us, that kind of thing. On those group trips, I would maybe give your driver $3 and then give the actual tour guide $5. So because it is a larger, it's a group experience. So you're not getting that personalized touch. Where do I keep my tip money all day? So there's a safe in your room, in every room. It doesn't even matter if you're staying in a budget-friendly property, you're gonna have a safe. Use your safe. Put your passport in there, put all the things you care about in there. Don't leave anything out. The only place I've ever left things out at is in Huatuco. I felt Huatuco was extremely safe. Maybe I was under a false guise, but I even left my laptop out in Huatuco and I had zero problems. I would not do that in any other country that has an all-inclusive. I wouldn't do it in Panama. I wouldn't do it in Jamaica. Okay, so definitely lock up those valuables. If you do wear expensive jewelry, I would encourage you to lock that up as well. I don't take expensive things with me. It's more sentimental, but I still make sure that I put those in a safe place, even if I don't lock those up. So definitely put your tip money in the safe. Where do I need to keep my money when I'm hanging around the resort or when I'm at the pool? So I personally carry a Halloween themed beach bag, and I put all my stuff in that I need for the day. Greg puts all his stuff in that he needs for the day. His lighter, his cigarettes, and we're good to go. I do take plastic baggies, the small Ziplocs with me. You've probably seen that in my packing with me video. I usually take, 10 of those, even if I'm just going for 4 nights, and then I will put whatever tip money I want to take around with me during the day. So I'll usually take around $25 with me, $30 around the resort for tipping wait staff or people that are walking over to my beach bed and giving me a drink, the bartenders, all that sorts of thing. That's where we keep our tip money locked in that Ziploc. Not that it's locked, but it's in there. While we go to the pool or while we swim at the beach, we always put everything in that beach bag and then we cover it up with towels. I've never had anybody steal anything, knock on wood. There has never been an incident that I have read about recently at an all-inclusive, and I'm in these resort groups. When you go to the swim up bar, some people want to know, should you tip? Yes and no. What I'll do is I will take $2 or $3. I'll just put them in my bikini top. I think it's wet, but I mean, so what? And then I will tip just $2 or $3 no matter how long we're in the pool, just so that the bartender does feel some appreciation. A lot of people won't even do that, and that's okay. I get that you're in the pool and you may not want all your money to get wet, but that's just what Greg and I do. How much should I tip at a restaurant that isn't a part of the resort? So this really depends on the country. I know like in Playa del Carmen in the Quintana Roo area of Mexico, a lot of times that tip money is built into the cost, and you can see that on your receipt. So just make sure that you look at that. And if you want to go above and beyond, you can certainly do that, okay? Same with places in Jamaica, etc. Just be mindful and look. We personally will still tip a little bit more on top of that just because that's how we are. We can afford to, but just make sure you're looking at your receipt. Oh, and some places will include that tip, even in the airport. What does it mean if a resort has a strict no tipping policy? Just got back from a couples and couples resort does have a strict no tipping policy. They tell you not to tip. You can gift certain items to staff members. With that being said, and I know people in the resort groups get really mad about this, and the couples groups, when we were at Couples Tower Isle last month, everybody was tipping. I mean, almost everybody. So we tipped. That's just what I'm comfortable doing. There supposedly is some kind of policy that perhaps one of the workers could lose their job if you tip. I don't know, but they're taking the money. So we're seeing that even though it's said not to. So if your resort does have that kind of policy, so you just have to get in those resort groups and kind of talk to people that go and just observe what people are doing around you. Also, you may want to tip folks that are doing things like landscaping. I know when my husband and I go to Valentina Imperial Riviera Maya, he always tips the gentleman that drives the tractor that takes up the seaweed. Those people are back of the house workers, and they may not see the tips that the front of the house folks do. So it's just a good idea to try to recognize everybody. I know my husband's also tipped landscapers before, even janitors. So just do the best that you can and tip when you feel the need to. I want to just mention this one more time. I know culturally tipping can be different. However, at many of these all-inclusive resorts, they are owned by Americans or operated by American companies. Like Secrets is now owned by Hyatt. So you definitely want to just take that into consideration and tip. You will see, again, that different level of service if you tip the folks. They're gonna remember you. They're gonna remember what kind of drink you like. They're gonna remember how you take your coffee in the morning. And I'm happy to do it. If I can afford to go on a vacation that's $2,500 or whatever, come on, what is tipping $50 more a day? I mean, that's just my opinion. I know that that can be controversial, but again, I just think it's so very important to do that. That's about it for this video. I hope that it helped you. I hope that if you can only afford $10 a day, you don't think that I'm trying to flex by saying that we do 50. That's just what we feel comfortable doing. If you can only do 10, do 10, but do something. That's all that I'm asking for. And that's all I think that anybody working at these resorts would ask for. So our next video actually is going to be about flying budget airlines and how I book flights. I know I've mentioned in other videos that sometimes I will book one carrier to Mexico and then another carrier home, or Jamaica, whatever. So I will talk about how I do that. Sometimes it only saves me $40, but y'all, that's $40. That's $40 I could be tipping, right? So I will talk with you all about that on the next video. And again, just to remind you of our travel schedule, June, I'm headed to Platinum Yucatan Princess with the girl group, In July, we're headed to Valentine Imperial Riviera Maya, which is one of our current favorite resorts, with a group of resort friends, which should be so much fun. And then in October, I am headed to Jewel Paradise Cove in Jamaica. Obviously, Greg will be on that one. And for 2 nights, and then we're transferring for 4 nights to Couples Tower Isle, which is one of our other favorite resorts currently. And then in November, we are headed to that Wyndham Ultra that I spoke about in the FAQ video. If you have somewhere you'd like for Greg and I to go and review, please drop it in the comment box below. We would really appreciate it. Until then, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and turn on that bell notification so you know every time we upload a video. Remember, experiences are greater than material things. Have the best rest of your day.